In a quiet Houston suburb, a young mother seemed to have the perfect life: a husband, two children, and a tidy home. But behind closed doors, that picture-perfect image was crumbling. And on one January night in 2003, it shattered forever. This is the story of Susan Wright, the woman who tied her husband to their bed and stabbed him 193 times. Jeffrey and Susan Wright looked like an ordinary couple. He was charming, outgoing, a man who loved life. She was quiet, reserved, a devoted mother to their two children. But beneath that suburban normalcy, their marriage was fractured. Susan would later claim years of abuse and fear. The prosecution, though, saw something very different: a plan slowly unfolding in the shadows. On January 13th, 2003, Jeffrey Wright walked into his home for the last time. That night, Susan tied him to their bed. How exactly she did is still debated. Whether by seduction or force remains unknown. What we do know is what happened next. With a knife clutched in her hand, Susan unleashed a storm of violence. She stabbed Jeffrey again and again and again until the count reached 193. The attack was so frenzied, investigators would later say it looked like something out of a horror film. And when the stabbing finally stopped, Susan dragged his body out back. She dug a shallow grave in their yard and buried her husband beneath the earth. The next day, Susan Lucille Wright filed a domestic abuse report in order to get a restraining order against her husband. For days, Jeffrey seemed to have simply vanished. Friends called, family worried, but Susan had no answers. The police began to investigate. The truth was waiting, just beneath the dirt of the Wrights' backyard. When investigators finally unearthed Jeffrey's body, the truth was undeniable. The devoted mother, the soft-spoken wife, had committed one of the most shocking crimes in Texas history. In court, Susan painted herself as a battered wife. She told jurors that years of abuse had pushed her past her breaking point, that the stabbing was not murder, but survival. The prosecution, however, called it cold-blooded. They argued Susan lured her husband into a trap and carried out a calculated killing. They questioned Susan Wright's claims of abuse by trying to prove Susan Wright did not report abuse to authorities prior to her killing her husband. The jury agreed. In 2004, Susan Wright was convicted of murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. But the story didn't end there. Susan appealed multiple times, and after serving 16 years, she was finally granted parole in 2020. Today, she is a free woman, living quietly, far from the headlines that once branded her as the woman who stabbed her husband nearly 200 times. So, was Susan Wright a battered woman who finally fought back, or a cold-blooded killer who wore the mask of a perfect wife? One thing is certain: the night Jeffrey Wright died remains a chilling reminder that behind closed doors, even the most ordinary homes can hide the darkest of secrets.
thank you for watching. We appreciate you taking the time to journey with us through today's gripping tale. If you found it captivating, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single story. More mysteries, chilling cases, and untold secrets are coming your way. Don't miss out. Subscribe now